Well, good morning and welcome to another Choice Chat with the Tennessee Federation for Children. I'm Shaka Mitchell. I'm the state director here in Tennessee for the American Federation for Children. And I'm really excited to have not just Jo Gilbert, but really a team of faculty and administrators and parents from the Madonna Learning Center. And really excited. So thank you for being with us, here on our, what now has become a show. Never thought I'd be a talk show host, but here we are. But one of the things that we've been doing during what has been this challenging remote time for, everyone really around the country, is we are trying to highlight some of the bright spots in education, because as challenging a time as this has been, we also know there are some really neat things happening for students around the state. And so this show is highlighting some of those. Last week, we heard from Kelly Smith, the founder of Prenda, that works, it's a system of micro schools. And that was really, really interesting for me to learn about and hear more about. And today we're going to hear from the Madonna Learning Center, which is a school in the Memphis area for children and adults with disabilities. And so let me just welcome you all and say good morning. Jo, why don't you start and introduce yourself?
Thank you. This is Jo. I'm Jo Gilbert. I'm the director of Madonna Learning Center. I've known and been a part of the school when it first began in 1969, and then came back as director about 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago. And it's been a blessing ever since. It's just been great. Fun ride.
Great. Rebecca, why don't we go to you?
So I'm Rebecca Bruce. I'm the program director here, and I've been here almost 8 years. And I taught here as a teacher many years ago, and then came back after teaching in public and private schools as an administrator. So it's a wonderful place, and love it.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. And Cynthia, good morning.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Salem. I'm the finance director here at Madonna. But first and foremost, I am a parent of a student at Madonna Learning Center. He started here when he was 5. He has Down syndrome, and he will be 23 in February. So we've been associated with the school for, I think, 17 years now. But I've been employed here for 10 years as the finance director.
Great. Well, thank you. We're really, really glad to have your perspective, not just as a staff member, but especially as a parent, just to be able to talk about the parent experience. So I guess, Jo, I'll start with you. The thing obviously that's on everybody's mind right now is back to school, and what a crazy back to school season this has been. Just unlike anything we've ever seen before. For folks who have watched our Choice Chats before, they've heard me lament the fact that, all 3 of my kids are at home, and it just looks different for everybody right now. So what does back to school, what has it looked like for Madonna Learning Center? Give us kind of the synopsis.
We had the online services once everything got shut down in March. Mm-hmm. And we went, it took a little transitioning, but we went straight into the, in the home with the children. And there was a lot of working with families in order to create that environment. We had to, the teachers had to kind of think differently, had to research more resources that are available through technology, and then gather materials and then provide those materials for those family members so they would have them at home, because our students learn a lot more with hands-on manipulatives. And so we had to provide those for them because they weren't necessarily ready at home. So that started in March, and we carried that through. Well, then as we were getting ready to come back, to much appeal to the families, because they were ready for the students to come back. The students were ready to come back. They wanted that social interaction with their friends. They missed it, dramatically. And so we needed to figure out ways that we could get them back. When we looked at the guidelines, there weren't a whole lot for special ed, because they weren't really sure what they were going to require them to do, because many of them said, well, we don't think they'll need to wear a mask because they probably won't wear a mask. So we had to think, and our children are at higher risk. So we also had to look at what do we need to put into place to really protect them, not just the like regular schools, but what else can we put into place? So there was a task force that went together and talked about ways that we could open up the school safely and what we needed to put into place. And much of that started back in April, just trying to get those things in place. We had to have a designated nurses room so that we could isolate students if they got COVID or if teachers, staff members got COVID. So all of those things, we had to start the building process with that and construct it because we didn't really have an extra room for that. So things were purchased and bought throughout the month just to get them back. Now, not everybody's back. We still have some at home that are virtually, but the majority are back into our facility.
Great. Yeah, I was going to ask if that's if you have had to sort of move to at least somewhat of a hybrid model. If there are some students who are at home, and Rebecca, maybe you can speak to that. What is learning at home? I know it's been a challenge for a lot of families, whether it's because of Wi-Fi and connectivity, or just sometimes the technology is buggy. I've got to think you do all this, and then an added layer for students, depending upon the needs, that can make it even more challenging.
Yes. So one thing we found through the spring is our teachers did a beautiful job working really hard to get things in place and get them in parents' hands. But because our children have more difficulty learning, and it takes longer to learn something, and it takes more direct instruction, still skills were spotty at best, and it was hard to make good progress. And so there were some positives in that, where parents learned a lot about how to do some things and work with their students. But across the board, everybody was saying, my child's talking less, they're becoming more isolated, they're having a lot more difficulty with all their social skills, which are, a journey to learn with all of our population. And so, Jo did a beautiful job working to make that happen for them here so they could come back. But like you said, some of them have health concerns, significant health concerns, and are not here. And so the teachers are balancing with some online folks during their day while they're doing direct instruction for in-house folks. And some, like our senior high class, has like 4 students online, but the majority in-house. So she's balancing teaching on the computer in a small group with the child zooming in on the computer during computer time, and giving them things to do at home for practice and then for some technology pieces. So she's getting a lot of things in the parents' hand and doing the in-house work. So our teachers are doing just a heroic task of getting this all together to meet everybody's needs as best they can.
Yeah, I was going to say, just in listening to you talk about it, it sounds like you've had some teachers who are really have come ready and, stepped up in ways that 9 months ago we didn't know were going to be necessary. That the talent was there, but we didn't know it was going to be necessary.
And gladfully so. Like we talked to staff just yesterday and we're asking these questions like, how do you feel about this? Is it what you want to be doing? And 100% said absolutely want our kids and want to be able to balance the ones that aren't coming in with the ones that are here. They are eager to see our kids grow, because that's what a special educator does. You're paid by seeing your kids grow, and they are doing all they can to make that happen. So it has been very heartwarming to watch them, dig deep and do more than they've ever done before to make it happen. And so we're trying to support them as best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me also want to back up a little bit. And Jo, just for folks who may not be that familiar, because we just jumped right in, and that's my fault. But give us the kind of the elevator pitch, so to speak. What is Madonna Learning Center? Who's the school really target? And give us the nutshell of the school itself.
Sure. Well, we are a private school that offers an educational and a training center for children and young adults with intellectual disabilities. So our school age starts at age 4, and they graduate at about 18, 19 years of age. And then we have an adult training center where they start at 18 and can go as long as they would like to attend. There's no age limit there. So we offer a lot of school age programs, including all of the arts and after school extracurricular activities, which many of our students do not get to participate in, or they're just not available for them, in other schools. So we are really excited about that. And then we have our adult training center is out in the community working side by side with job coaches and training and preparing them for an independent life and employment. So we also offer a part-time program that allows them to be working somewhere, but still get to come back, join in with their friends, do some activities, volunteer in the community and give back, and just continue those lifelong friendships that they've developed from day one.
And this is go ahead, Jo.
Yeah, we also empower them to be leaders in the school and in the community. So there's a lot of things that we put into place from day one when they're in their very first group all the way through, so that by the time they leave, they're ready to go out and just, advocate for themselves and just work and be independent as possible. So,
and talk to me about where the school is located, and about how many students do you have in any given school year?
Sure, we are located on Poplar Avenue, just inside Germantown city limits, and we have 82 students at this time. We like to keep that ratio small because our teacher to student ratio is at a operable, wonderful operable number, so that we can give the individualized attention that the students need. Rebecca was talking about our teachers. At any given time, they can have 7 children in a class, but that's 7 lesson plans in a class per day. So everything is so individualized. They are teaching at the students' levels and advancing them where they are to get them to that next step. So it's a pretty cool program.
So Cynthia, I'm going to come to you a little bit and would love to hear about how you first learned let me see if I can do this quick math. Almost 19 years ago, maybe, how you learned about Madonna Learning Center, because this isn't a new program. It's really been doing, this kind of work for decades. So how did you first come to find the school and make the decision to sort of join the school community?
Well, fortunately, when Adrian, who's my son, was very young, the first program they started in was Special Kids and Families. And, you start hearing very, very early on, you start hearing about Madonna Learning Center, just kind of from other parents and from the community and the medical community and all of that. They'll start saying, kind of suggesting that you check Madonna Learning Center out and get on the list of, so when your child becomes of age, that will be an option. It's a little confusing. I heard Madonna a lot when Adrian was young, but we get families with teenage children come in now that have never heard of Madonna Learning Center. And that kind of blows me away when that happens, because it was known from the very beginning that I should check out Madonna as an option. And my intention was to take the public school route with Adrian. And, I had kind of kept my mind open about both. But when it came close to time to make a decision for him to go to school, and we had done some speech therapy and things like that in the public school system, and it had some positive experiences there and some not so positive. But when we went to check out what was his public school option, it became apparent to me that was not, necessarily would not be my choice, unless I had no alternatives. And then it would have been a difficult choice, simply because of the physical location of the school and the physical attributes of the classroom area that he would have been in, and the number of children, a lot of different things. The dynamic was just very, very difficult. And he was kind of a small, quiet child, and he would have been going into an environment that was very different than what he would have been accustomed to. So I immediately went to check out Madonna and found that was much more in line with my thinking as far as where I could comfortably leave a 5-year-old. And I felt from day one when I dropped him off that I knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that he would be appreciated and cared for and taught appropriately to his needs. And that was just critical for me. Knowing that I could drive away with the comfort of knowing he was safe and cared for and appreciated was just first and foremost in my mind.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that drive away process is tough for any parent of a kindergartner, right? But especially so for students with higher needs.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
because they can't necessarily come home and tell you what has transpired in the course of the day.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That, if you haven't thought about that as a parent, that's critical, because when your child can't communicate to you what their experiences have been, that's a big question mark. And if they come home and they're upset or they're disturbed or they're, whatever seems off, you have really no knowledge of what has transpired.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Rebecca, how does that, so I've got to think that a lot of those considerations are still what you hear when you're, giving school tours now, but add the layer of COVID on top of that. When you're hearing from parents, say in the past 6 months, 5-6 months, or maybe over the summer, et cetera, can you highlight, I don't know, 3-4 things that people say, this is what really is drawing me to, Madonna versus whatever school I was coming from?
Well, absolutely. Right now, in this time we're in, where everything is so isolating, and a lot of students their only option is online learning. I just came in right before this from a tour from a wonderful family with a little boy who is nonverbal, and he's 7 years old, and he is doing everything online with videos are coming to him every day. They are in touch with their speech pathologists and getting help there, all online, but the school option right now is lots of videos coming. Well, he doesn't attend well to them at best, and then also because this particular child has problems with technology and kind of fixating on it and not wanting to get off or just wanting it his way. So having a technology piece as his only educational source is very difficult for him socially and to transition on and off of it. And so this particular mom, and I've heard this story over and over again, this online option for a child that is not talking, who needs hands-on instruction, who is still not writing their name and learning to learn their letters and all those things is, it's not helping. And they're regressing quickly, and their frustration levels are high. And not only the child, but then that pushes over into the whole family's frustration level is high. And so they are hungry. I've had so many people calling and looking for options, and it just breaks your heart that they're struggling so desperately right now because of this virus. And I know we all are, but they in particular are really having a difficult time. And there's not any place they can take their child for a break. There's no place that's helping their child actually, make progress or help them, specifically with their target goals. And so, it's just hard. They're in a hard time. And then on top of that, when we talk about the IA, that window for that is closed for this particular time. So if they just learned about the IA, that's not going to be an option for them at this time. So that's just another blow, really. Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to this, the IA, and how parents even kind of make this work, right? Because it's not, because there's a cost to all of this. But Jo, let me just ask you on kind of there's this balance, and we're reading about it. There's an article about this every day, kind of the balance of, I don't think anybody doubts that students do better with in-person instruction. I would say the vast majority of students do better with in-person instruction. There are some students, I think, who are actually doing pretty well with some remote stuff and digitally. But there's also the very real safety concerns. Health risk. You talked about that you've got a particularly vulnerable student population. You may have faculty members who are also, have greater health risks. What are some of the things, and I've taken a peek at your reopening plan, but can you talk about, maybe one or two things that you've done on site there from the health perspective so that families could feel safe, like Cynthia said, at the drop off, going, all right, my child is going to be safe from a health standpoint so that they can focus on learning?
Sure. Well, we have everything in place that many schools have put into place. The temperature checks, we've got the hand washing, sanitizing stations. We have all the social distancing signs and touchless bottle fillers so that they can have, they can't use the water fountain. So there were a lot of things that we learned that we had to put into place. And the clinic, which I described earlier, that we had to have a designated clinic. And then we also had to look at, okay, well, we know that our students are going to have a difficult time with keeping face masks on all day long. So we thought, well, we really need to have a way to give them a break from wearing those, but still stay safe for our staff and for our students. So, through a process and a wonderful volunteer at the school, who was a retired engineer, decided, to come by and say, what are your needs? And we started just talking, and through a process of maybe 3 to 4 months, started pulling together prototypes on how we could custom make shields that could go on our desks that students were foolproof for the students, because, our students, they might tap it. They may be curious about it. They may want to touch it, push it off, whatever. And we needed something more foolproof that they could keep on their desk. But also we wanted it portable so that if we moved from a table to another table or from a room to another room, we could take it with us. And that shield has proven to be fabulous. And so this gentleman, through this process, not only made these items, he also paid for these items to be put into the school. So it was a blessing in so many ways. And now the teachers use it as a teaching tool. It has become more than just a shield with a little hook that the kids can hang their masks on. It has now become a teaching tool. So the teachers use it as, it's a clear polycarbonate shield that they can dry erase on it and they can write on it. And it's just become a great little program that we put into place. And that's helped a lot. And it's amazing, Shaka, how the children have adapted so well to all the protocols. I mean, often they just got their little head sticking out like, don't forget to take my temperature. And, and they know even at 4 years of age how to put that mask on and tuck it behind their ears. Yeah. And it's amazing. They've adapted so well.
Yeah, that's really encouraging to hear. I mean, I think obviously we all have the nostalgia of what, let's say, a kindergarten classroom looks like and feels like, and it has nothing to do with masks and shields. But you're right. These are kids who at 3 years old figured out how to use iPhones, right? They can figure out how to put the mask on. But it really sounds like, even with both from a programmatic standpoint with instruction for your students, but even now the physical space, the kind of like customization, individualization is really the name of the game, making it work for, your unique situation. So, Rebecca kind of teed us up for this a little bit. And that is the fact that there are, something like 16% of students have IEPs, 16% of all students, somewhere in that neighborhood. Well, it's 100% at Madonna Learning Center. We know that brings some real costs, right? So talk to me about maybe the cost of instruction versus tuition. Like, how do parents make it work? And then maybe we can touch on some of the programs that are out there that maybe help with accessibility. Sure. I don't know who wants to jump in first. But yeah.
Well, I'll start first. The actual cost to provide all the speech therapy, occupational therapy, all the individualized instruction in the classroom, all the extracurricular, the art, the music, the live, all the PE classes, they cost approximately $23,000 per child. Now our tuition is set at $14,000. So you can already kind of do the math there and realize that we have to make up the difference. Then of what it truly costs. So we do several fundraisings. Now, many of our families have difficulty affording even that $14,000.
Sure.
So the offering of the Individualized Education Account, which is the IEA that Rebecca referred to, has helped, and that's where families can receive partial payment of the tuition. So
this is a state program.
It's a state program. And so they have to apply for it. And there's only certain windows, as Rebecca indicated, of when they can apply, and they have to qualify before even applying. And that is, they have to have an active IEP, and they have to attend a public school for 1 full year before they can apply. And so once they are approved, then they're able to come to us, and that takes care of part of that tuition. And then we still have a tuition assistance program that we do some fundraising and asking the community to help support with offsetting some of those costs. And it's a strain for a lot of our families, but many of them, some of them have 2 or 3 jobs just to keep their children in the program because they just feel that, love the program. Yeah.
Cynthia, maybe let me hear from you as a, kind of put your parent hat on, but even with our parent hat on, we pay bills, right? So you can't really take off the finance hat.
Yes.
As a parent, one of the things that I have heard, one of the criticisms that I sometimes have heard, or maybe concerns, is people say, well, if you when a family participates in the IEA program or any kind of private choice program, if they would be coming from a public school system where they had an IEP, and you have, anybody who's watching this who's been a part of IEP process, about IEP meetings. And so they say, well, you're losing something by giving up that IEP. How did you think about that? I'm sort of leading the witness here, but because you made the decision, but how would you answer that? When a family says, well, I don't want to give up my student's IEP, how do you think about that?
Well, first of all, you don't give up the IEP, because we also have an IEP here at Madonna that is quite comprehensive and very much used in the day-to-day instruction that the child receives, and is critical when you think about it. And I really love to talk about the fact that at Madonna our parent-student ratios are such that every single child is taught specifically to their IEP every day. It's not an afterthought. It's not, and nothing I say is meant to be disparaging when it comes to public schools, because there are some great public schools out there that do a great job. However, there are families in situations where their children are assigned to schools where they cannot, for whatever reason, receive what they specifically need. And in the event that it is determined that Madonna is the proper placement for them, it's because it was determined through a process that we can meet those needs. And we don't accept students if we don't feel very strongly that we can meet those needs. And so you can come here as a parent assured that your child's needs are going to be met. And whether it be something specific in their IEP, or whether it be just the emotional and relational needs that they have on a day-to-day basis, that's what we're all about. This place is built, designed, and carried out on a day-to-day basis to specifically meet those needs. And one of the things that has been so difficult through this COVID-19 process is the loss of the interaction on the social side, because for most of our students, if not all of their friends are here. And they don't have necessarily neighbors that they can go out and play with. They don't have a social network outside of school, because their friends are here. They come here, and for the first time in their lives, they're invited to birthday parties.
Yeah.
They're invited to sleepovers. They're invited to participate in things that they've never had the opportunity to do before. And keeping them away from that has been the most difficult. And my son is 22 now. And in the fall, when he had to quit going, in the spring, excuse me, when he had to quit going to school, he would get so excited when a Zoom session would come on and he would see his friends in that Zoom session, because that's really what it was all about. And he was just as happy as he could be. And I would hear him. I would be in the other room working, and I could hear him when a Zoom session was over. He'd say, "Wow, that was fun." You know, it's just the interaction that they would have. It's just critical to them to have those relationships they've never had the opportunity to have before.
Yeah.
I think I digressed from your original question. But, you know, all of those things together is what makes the package such an attractive package.
No, that's great. I mean, I think you three don't, but we can get so caught up in the dollars and cents, in the compliance paperwork. But what it sounds like, and what I'm really hearing, and I hope it comes through on our chat this morning, is that parents and faculty know when kids are thriving, and if that's kind of your North Star, then everybody's driving towards that. Is really going to be what benefits our kids. We are right up on time, but I certainly want to say thank you, Rebecca, Cynthia, and Jo. And Jo, tell us, you've got a golf scramble coming up that I think, tell folks what that's about, and then we'll close out with that.
It is October 7th, and it's at Windike Country Club. And the proceeds from the golf tournament help with our tuition assistance program. So it is critical for us so that we can offer more opportunities for our families out there to have some benefits from the tuition costs. So it's we're looking forward to it. We have a full field. It is pretty much sold out. So that's a good thing right now in COVID.
Great.
And we're just, we're excited about it.
Well, I'll put in a plug then for anybody who's an awful golfer like me. This is your opportunity. You can make a donation, and you don't even have to play golf, which benefits a lot of us. No, but
absolutely.
Thank you all for coming on. It's so great to hear that you're doing well, and of course, we wish you and your faculty and your whole school community the best. Stay safe and healthy out there.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.